The real work begins when the excitement to work ends. That's what separates the elite from the rest, is that ability to show up consistently, even when showing up is not the cool thing to do anymore. Even when it's not the ideal thing, when it's cold, when it hurts, when it is tedious, when to be able to show up anyway on the days when you don't feel like showing up until the days where you do feel like showing up should come back around. That is what separates those of us from the rest. I and from a consumer perspective, I don't think it is the thought that is, man, what if I watch this and it's a waste of time? It's a fear, even if it's subconscious, of what if I watch this and I thoroughly enjoy it, and the person who produced it is inconsistent, and so at any point in time when I'm looking for something like this again, this person's not going to be there. I think it's more of that kind of fear. Or even if you're looking at it from a player coach perspective, right? You can think of it as you're a coach and you see this player and he comes through and he shows you the like a performance like you've never seen, but then he never shows up like that again because you're looking at this and you're thinking about, man, this person could actually be so much more than they are, or they show up at that level and you can't depend on them to come at that level again, then that's not a player that you're going to want on your team. You'd rather have a solid eight, an incredible eight, well rounded, all of that, just not that awe inspiring thing that the more talented player may be. But there's something that you can consistently count on to come have a great or excellent performance. You'd rather get have that person who's going to come through and be excellent consistently than the person who's going to be awe inspiring occasionally. And I think that there is something that I've said before and put on here, which is, um, uh, I forget this quote. It's something about, I'm going to paraphrase it now, or I'm going to, yeah, let's say paraphrase it. It's something about consistently showing up will get you much further than being inconsistently excellent. Being consistently excellent will get you much further than being occasionally extraordinary. Something to that effect. And I believe that truly is, if you can show up at a certain level and you can show up at that level consistently, then you are going to be the person that is picked above the person that can't show up consistently. Period. Because it doesn't help that you show up at a 10 on occasion, because maybe I'm going to need you to show up at a 10 on a day that you didn't show up at a 10. Does that make sense? And most of us are not at a level where we can produce a 10, but we're at a level where we can, for sure, if we come through consistently enough, produce a 6. Produce a 6, 8 on a great day. On a great day, we're showing up at an 8, but we can consistently, without fail, if we focus, dedicate ourselves, produce that 6. And if you can produce that 6 3 times a week, then you are going to be more appealing. If you can produce that 6 3 times a week, so if 3 times a week I can come through and you're not wasting my time, you're actually making a fair point and you're giving me food for thought. And occasionally you hit an 8. Occasionally there's that 1 or 2 times when I'm just there and I'm like, man, you know what? This right here, this was special. This was real. This actually gave me something of value, of substance, that I can that has maybe changed the trajectory of my life. I can maybe apply this in the rest of my life. Or even if what you say directly isn't the thing that's going to change the rest of my life, it may inspire me to go look into something, and I go buy a book and I go listen to a podcast that is going to change the rest of my life. But because you have showed up every single time I was there listening for the one time where you said the thing that was going to change my life. But that never happens if I never am able to depend on you to show up consistently at that level, to where, man, if I listen to this guy for long enough, he might drop a gem. But even on days that he doesn't drop a gem, I leave going, fair. That's a fair point. Today wasn't the day that I particularly wanted to hear that message, but I'm sure someone out there was like, you know. The point being, there are those things in life where you are going to have to consistently show up. Period. If you can consistently show up, then you can begin to plug those holes in your arsenal, in your skill level. You can plug those gaps in your knowledge. You can plug those, and I'm a very big proponent of the concept that is there are known unknowns and there are unknown unknowns, and I think you can work on those known unknowns by being consistent. But if you're consistent for long enough, then you can run into some of those unknown unknowns, and they can become known at very least. And then from there, you can add them to the things that you're working on consistently. And that's another tool that you can now add to your arsenal, which you never would have discovered if you weren't being there consistently. You would have just thought, man, this must just be because I'm not that good. But then you come to discover, like, okay, I am not that good, but also I have no idea how to begin to tackle that issue. And then you can begin to equip yourself with the correct skills to attack that issue. And then that turns into a whole nother skill tree that you've unlocked now, that you can add to the original skill tree that you had to begin with. And so the real work begins when excitement ends, when you're no longer excited to show up. Michael Phelps talked about swimming for 8 hours a day, as practice. Imagine that, 8 hours, lap at lap. Now, I know you're thinking about this and you're thinking, yeah, no, he's champion. This is what champions do. But actually think about it. Think about how boring and tedious that must be. Just lap, 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 lap. Like, you're literally just doing this 8 hours a day. This is you. 10 times Olympics, 10 Olympic gold medals. 8 hours a day. A day. Imagine you finish that 8 hours. I have to show up tomorrow, and it's still going to be that same blue water. Just me, my breath. And studies have shown that consistent practice, the consistent practice that it takes to actually become excellent at something, is not an enjoyable experience. Because again, the real work, like what truly separates, I like to talk about these things that separate those of us from the rest. The things that separate the elites, the thing that separates in any field, in any discipline, the thing that separates those who just so happen to just touch something that others don't seem to touch. Consistency. Because consistency, it never looks impressive in the short term. In the now, it really looks like nothing special at all. It really doesn't look like anything real, anything significant. And then when you look back and you think about Michael Phelps in that swimming pool, and you're like, man, this guy has swam over 8,000 hours that year. Is it a question that he's going to be the best in the world? Especially at that talent level that he is at, which is already at an elite level. But we've discussed this on the channel before. When talent meets talent, talent is not enough. When you get to a certain level of talent, please, if you have really been here, then you should know that the answer is, when talent meets talent, it's about stamina. Stamina is the ability to produce mental and physical effort for a prolonged period. Meaning, when you get to that certain level of talent, it is about how long can you stay at that 10. Okay, you're coming through here. We're all at a 10. I want it as bad as you want it, or do I? What's going to be the separator? And this is what we're talking about now. That thing that separates those of them, even among the cream of the crop. There's the creme de la creme. There's that echelon, that highest of echelon, that 0.1, that greatest of all time. There's that. What separates that from everyone else? There are many, many words and ways to phrase this: desire and repetition. Um, but above all, yeah, it is desire and repetition, truly. It's them wanting to be excellent, or them wanting to do it that many times. But then it's also on the days when they didn't want to, still doing it. Desire and repetition. So it's repetition when you do desire, and repetition when you don't feel like it. But then I guess one could argue that, what was there a greater desire? Was there a greater desire more than the desire of the day? So like today I don't feel like showing up, but do I want something much bigger than today that is pulling me regardless of if I can push myself or not? And that's why we talk about the three things. And this is my closing statement. We talk about the three things that those people have, that those elites have, and that is a great towards, something that's pulling them, um, a great away, something that they're avoiding, that they're running away from, that they're, say a fear of failure. It could be, something that's just pushing them towards the goal. But you need more than a push. You do need something that is bigger than yourself, that you are devout to. A greater mission, a greater purpose. This may be a purpose to anything. It may be a purpose to your grand vision. It may be a purpose to your God. It may be a purpose to your family, your bloodline, your whatever the case may be. But you do need that thing that pulls you like gravity, because sometimes push isn't enough. We're all at a certain level. Again, at a certain level, we are all motivated. We're all highly motivated and have high levels of willpower. So what will separate you? Well, it's having that great pull. Okay, so if you have a great towards, a great away, then that third thing is impulse control, which is the ability to not get veered away from the path. The ability to control the natural human tendency to get distracted and to lose focus. We can define focus as the quantity and quality of the things that you say no to. But I was talking to my little brother about this, because I was telling him to, keep doing what he's doing. He's doing okay. He's doing quite okay in school right now and stuff like that. And I was having a conversation with him about focus. And I asked him to define focus. Just because those are the conversations I have with him. What? It's like 10. He's 10 now. Those are the conversations that I'm having with a 10-year-old. Like, define focus. What do because it's me, right? Yeah, define focus. I'm like, okay, what's focus? Okay, I was like, what do you think you're doing? Like what you're doing? He says, because I'm focused. And I knew he was just regurgitating something that he's heard. So I went a level deeper and I said, okay, what does focus mean? You know? And he's like, well, that it means that you're not doing. It means that you're not getting distracted. I'm like, what's getting distracted? He said doing other things. So I said, oh, okay, so it's the doing. Is it the doing, and the fact that you're doing more, and you're doing is the fact that you're doing all the time and you're not allowing yourself to get taken away from the doing? Is that why you're doing so well? And then eventually that's where we got to. Like he did have kind of like a solid idea, right? Because he did kind of, he was able to go back and forth with me a little bit, but there was something that he had a bit wrong, and then I just tweaked him on, and we ended up on it being the doing. Okay, so I asked him what separates himself right now in current state from the guy who's number one. I was like, do you think he's doing more? Do you think he's doing more consistently? Do you think, what do you think it is? Just to get his ideas. And he answered a little something, and I said, well, regardless of that, I think it would reason that if you're doing so well because you are doing and you're not being taken away from doing, then if you wanted to improve in something, what do you think that you would be required to do? Or what do you think you're supposed to do if you want to be better at something? And then he said, do more. And I was like, exactly. If you want to get better, do more. And I think that's fundamental. I think that is a fundamental thing to understand and to keep in mind at all times, in all things, and hence the real work begins when the excitement to work ends, because the doing that is required may be beyond the doing that is within your threshold of excitement, and your ability to do beyond that is real work. And that ability to do beyond excitement is what separates those of us from the rest. And so do. If you seek to improve, do more of what you seek to improve. Period. Thank you for watching. I have been Sage. If you did in fact enjoy today's video, please do hit that subscribe button. Standing on business. Signing up.